is where the juice in relationships come from, is people's capacity to develop differentiation, mutual respect, and also know what your own bottom lines are, what your no's are, what your yeses are. And there are lots of reasons why for many of us, especially as women, I think those that can be really challenging and really hard because we are not, we're taught to say yes.
Yes.
And we spend a lot of time, if we're lucky and able to, and have the wherewithal to, learning a lot more about setting better boundaries. Midlife is such a vulnerable time. It's a time of great, great possibilities, but it's also a time that there is loss happening and change happening. And often people don't see the possibilities because they're getting really, really stuck or focused on fear of change and the loss. It's a stormy time, and a lot of relationships have not gotten themselves equipped to be flexible.
Hey, girlfriend.
Hey, girlfriend.
Today we are talking to my dear friend, Katherine Waddell, who is a marriage and family therapist, and she's going to be teaching us about something that Jessica, you and I have never heard of before, this idea of differentiation in relationships and how do we be in long-term relationships and keep it hot and juicy and want to still be there, especially now in midlife, and we're seeing it all the time. A lot of our girlfriends are getting divorced. They're divorce curious. We might be divorce curious. And so we thought, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Let's talk about the things and stop being afraid of what might be holding us back in our long-term relationships. So, Katherine, welcome to Girlfriends of a Certain Age.
Well, I'm just so delighted to be here. And this subject is one of my favorite things to talk about. It's personally and professionally so interesting to me. So I am really excited to share it with you.
I can't wait to get into it, and I'm so intrigued what differentiation means. It's going to be so interesting for us girlfriends in midlife who are kind of coming into ourselves again, and really getting almost a new identity. So I imagine how that plays out with our partners is interesting. I'm certainly going through that myself. The girlfriend perspective, we live for that. Katherine, also tell us about your practice and why you started working with couples.
About 15 years ago, a dear girlfriend, Dr. Donna Gilman, and I founded the center that we run, which is the Center for Couples Therapy, called the Couples Center of the Pioneer Valley here in Western Massachusetts. I do a lot of couples intensives. I do a lot of, I'll talk a bit more in regards to divorces or couples on the brink. I do a lot of something called discernment counseling, which many people still don't know about, which is a fantastic way of working short term to help couples make decisions about the future of their relationship. I have been transformed, I think, by the work personally, by the power of differentiation, which is kind of the engine behind the developmental model.
Tell us about that. Let's dive into that, because that sounds so interesting and intriguing. Like, what are we talking about differentiation?
My ability to stay solid within myself while dealing with issues or concerns, problems, differences of opinion, differences of desires, differences of beliefs with another person. And this is, of course, increasingly difficult the more close they are to you. The developmental model to me is so exciting because it is based on growing the internal muscle to both withstand and sort of step into the challenges and the difficulties of having differences. And also your capacity to hold space for and not react to or try to take charge of or change those beliefs or values or desires in your partner. So how on earth do we do that? It is a lifelong learning. That is where the juice in relationships come from, is people's capacity to develop differentiation, mutual respect, and also know what your own bottom lines are, what your no's are, what your yeses are. And there are lots of reasons why for many of us, especially as women, I think that can be really challenging and really hard, because we are not, we're taught to say yes.
Yes.
And we spend a lot of time, if we're lucky and able to, and have the wherewithal to, learning a lot more about setting better boundaries.
There's so many of us who were raised to say yes, to center men, center our lives around men, and to make sure they're happy and we're pleasing to them, and they'll keep taking care of us and providing for us and making us look good and all those things. And then the estrogen starts to disappear from our bodies. And all of a sudden, we're saying hell no to so many things in our lives, including partners. So I can see absolutely how differentiation approach would be something like, oh, yeah, well, my values aren't that anymore. Or I put my values aside to make this man happy. And now I'm 52 and I'm saying no more. I can never do that again.
It goes beyond gender. I think certainly as women, we are for sure just marinating in that culture of, how can I help you, especially if you're a man. But it's making me think too of a related thing. This is something that I've seen a lot, and I'm actually working with a couple right now who, boy, this is a heterosexual couple where the woman has been giving so much. And the guy, there is a concept called the walkaway wife syndrome. 2/3 of divorces in this country are filed for by women. Little known fact. And a lot of the time, husbands will be just shell shocked. Sometimes it's an affair related thing, often not. But after years of asking their husbands for things like more quality time, meaningful conversations, more help at home, etc., etc., often they will just shut down, not even know they're doing this, and just kind of wait for the youngest kid, if they have kids, to grow up and then walk away. This is Michelle Weiner Davis's term, the walkaway wife syndrome. Here is what I love. This is where differentiation can come in, because one of the things that might sound kind of even harsh or blaming, which it's not, that I sometimes say to, let's say, wives in this situation is, I wonder if you're aware how much you've been letting him off the hook for so long. Because a lot of us as women do not have that differentiation, that ability to come back and say, not only is this not working for me, but I'm not going to continue this way. We have to figure out something that works for both of us. And I want to hear about it from your angle. What's so hard about this? Or can you share more with me in a vulnerable way? And to not just drop it and get passively compliant, because passive compliance, I think, or resentful compliance, is just one of the biggest killers of relationships. And I think women can, not always are, but certainly can be guilty of that.
Well, I think, as Felicia pointed out, that recovering good girl, especially, we bite it, we bury it, we can swallow it, and it's not doing anyone any good. It's not doing us good, and no one else can read our minds, right? So we have to express our needs to our partners. They're not mind readers, and that can be really frustrating if we don't always have the tools. I want to share one little fun experiment I've been doing in my personal household with my husband. Okay, you both might relate to this, and the girlfriends listening might. Laundry for a long time was something that I would fold, especially when my boys were younger. I have 2 sons. It just became this kind of thing that I would do. I would listen to a podcast and I would do it, and I would fold my husband's laundry and mine and all 4 of us, right? And then as the boys entered an age where I felt like, hey, you guys should start to learn how to fold your own laundry, they took it on, which to be honest with you, most of the time it's horrendous. It's like a floor drobe all over their room, but I don't care because that's what they're doing. And one of them usually gets fed up and says, "This is disgusting," and they finally do it, and that's them working it out. Well, suddenly I realized that, my husband's laundry basket has been sitting there more often. It's not magically getting folded any longer. And, I also come from a background where I feel like we each pull our weight, and I'm very grateful. My husband does a lot of things, and I don't think even and fairness always has to be like we each do the same tasks, right? There's some people who are like, I can't stand folding laundry. Please take this on. But after over a decade of doing it, I was just like, I'm done. I'm done. I never liked doing it either. Like, I get no joy. And so at this current moment, it's either 2 or 3 clean laundry baskets in our room. And I have just protested it. And I did share with him, I'm done. I'm done folding the laundry. So he basically, like, I've put mine away, and he kind of lives out of the laundry basket. And I basically have to look at that laundry basket every day in our room and go, okay.
I want to give you the biggest, highest 5, because what you are doing is demonstrating to him and to your boys, because they may notice this,
Right.
that you have put out what you want. He's not able or willing to do it or whatever. It's not a priority to him. And you have decided that there are bigger fish to fry than the freaking laundry. And what he wants to do with his laundry can be what he wants to do with his laundry. Right? I mean, it's
Yes.
do you remember Car Talk, the show Car Talk?
Oh my gosh, yes, with the brothers.
Like in black. So
Yes.
like, best marriage advice I've ever heard in my life came out of those guys' mouth when they were talking to this woman who was freaking out about what an explosive, horrible nightmare, situation her husband's car was. Like, she was all up in his grill about his car. And these guys calmly said, do you ever have to get in this car? Can you just use your car for when you guys go places? That's what we do. So what's the problem? And then they went on it. A man's car is sacred. And like, he has no other place, not the bathroom, not the dining room, it's his car, for God's sake. But from a differentiation perspective, Jessica, what you are pointing out is that that's a difference between you, and you're tolerating it and deciding to let it go, even though it bugs you, because there are other places that are probably much more important, where you want to put your energy on fighting for something that's important to you.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, it's going to make me more annoyed to fold his laundry than to let him just not fold it. So
and that is unfortunately where a lot of women cannot let go.
And that's what leads us to these conversations, I'm guessing, around, I'm fed up. I gotta go. It's time for me to flee this marriage, this relationship. So when someone comes into your office, whether I'm guessing it's in person or virtually, would you walk them through the discernment counseling, or is it differentiation? Like, how would you help someone know, is it worth it to stay or go?
I have a question that I've formulated over the years that helps me really get a sense of 0 to 10. What is your level of motivation, with 0 being I have no motivation at all, and 10 being both feet 100% in? 0 to 10, what is your level of motivation right now to work on things over the next 6 months? As if somebody tells me a 3 or less, they are really more in a situation that's about discernment, about really making a decision if they want to stay in the relationship or not. And that's fine, because in discernment, there is usually, not always, but usually one person who's leaning pretty heavily out, in this walkaway wife situation. Let's say it's a heterosexual relationship where there's a man and a woman, and the woman has this walkaway wife sort of syndrome going on. She's going to have almost no motivation. And she is convinced that just as I know that the sun shall rise tomorrow morning, my husband is incapable of changing, is usually what, these people believe. They may be right, they may not. But so that's one question that I asked to kind of get a sense of, like, is this going to be a discernment? Or if they're a 4 and above, then usually I have found that that is enough to get started, and to have enough motivation to do a course of couples therapy. In particular, I think I always want to know, have people put forth, both people, a really serious effort for a good long period of time, like 6 months, not like, 4 sessions. Yeah, we did couples therapy for 3 or 4 sessions. That's what people say. That's not couples therapy. That has involved a deep personal inventory of working on your own legitimate contributions to the mess. Do you know what your contributions are? Do you understand what your protective behaviors are and why they make sense and why you do them? Have you worked hard to learn new tools and skills and do different? And if not, why not? So my belief is that many unnecessary divorces can be prevented, and I'm not neutral about whether people, just go ahead and say they want to get divorced if they haven't gotten really good help for a good long period of time and put in real effort. And I think a lot of times people just, it's easier in the short term, it's just easier to walk away.
So interesting to me. I mean, I've heard the statistic about that most divorces are initiated by women. But I think before I learned that, I thought the stereotype was that most were initiated by men. And maybe that's because it seems like more men cheat than women cheat. And so I was just sort of making that be connected. But it's fascinating that women are the ones initiating this.
The research on more men cheating versus more women cheating is not, it's a very small percentage point more.
Really?
Yeah, I think, like, it's hard to get it's hard to get hard data on that where people are being honest.
Honest,
But one of the
right.
and I think men do tend to cheat a little more, but it's not a real strong.
This is good. This is good
Yeah.
to understand.
Yeah,
Very good.
very interesting. Yeah.
And I can only imagine too, that's a really challenging piece of data, because you have to ask people to be honest, and what they define as cheating can vary, and all of
People's
that.
definitions of cheating. My gosh, yeah, that's a
Exactly.
whole other topic.
Right. Well, also specifically for women in midlife, because that's who primarily listens to our show. Although, hey, we love anyone who wants to learn from girlfriends of a certain age, because we feel like we have this unique perspective, right? We're kind of in the middle of our life, looking back and looking forward. And because, especially related to menopause, many women go through this hormonal shift. I myself did, and that's basically when the laundry folding stopped. And I really think a lot of things shifted for the better. It was like I didn't get off in the same way. I didn't get off like an estrogen kick about doing these things. And I don't mean to simplify it all into feminine masculine, but I definitely will say that there was a shift. And I hear this from a lot of my friends, which is what used to feel fulfilling is no longer. But one fun thing my husband and I have been trying to do is well, what is fulfilling now? What is exciting for us to come together and do? But I do imagine for you, Katherine, that this is a very, I don't want to use the word precarious, but sort of delicate time where you've got what, often is called like the midlife crises. And so what advice would you give to middle-aged couples to navigate what I feel like is so often a time of identity shifts, career changes, kids leaving, kind of getting to know each other all over
Yeah.
again? What would you say to us?
Well, I mean, the first thing I would say is that, look, midlife is such a vulnerable time. It's a time of great, great possibilities, but it's also a time that there is loss happening and change happening. And often people don't see the possibilities because they're getting really, really stuck or focused on fear of change and the loss. Bodies are changing, illnesses, death seems nearer, and death is nearer. It's a stormy time, and a lot of relationships have not gotten themselves equipped to be flexible. In Bader's model, we're also looking at relationships from that perspective of where there's the initial attachment phase, otherwise known as the honeymoon stage, and then there is the differentiation stage. And the differentiation stage and the capacity that a couple has for both people to step into that and fully learn, how do we have productive conflict? How do we deal with our differences? How do we respect each other while also holding our own boundaries? How do we learn where and how to be flexible and where and how not to? How do we learn how to make time for each other in the midst of all the chaos and everything else and not lose each other and prioritize the relationship? All of these kinds of things. And that, to me, a lot of what happens is when people have been so busy raising kids, having their careers, running around and doing a million things, and suddenly the last of the kids is in late high school or going off to college, and people look at each other across the kitchen table. It's like, who the hell are you? Why am I with you? What are we doing? Like, am I really the rest of my life I'm going to spend with you? Ugh.
Yeah.
And people, that is what happens when people have avoided the differentiation challenge of that stage. And it takes a lot of courage and strength and emotional muscle and learning to be able to do that. And people absolutely can do it. And I see it all the time, and it's really exciting. It's also sometimes situations where, as we've talked about, there may be too much water under the bridge. Somebody has lost claim on their spouse's commitment because there has been substance abuse and the other person can't recover from the years of that, or infidelity, or just one person won't or can't grow. I mean, those are all like very real things that happen.
Right, right. And that's where someone like you comes in to understand the difference of what, like, that motivation and what are the circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I love about doing couples intensives is I have like 2 whole days of time with these people where I teach them a lot. A big part of the first day is all learning stuff about differentiation, practicing some things, and then using it to start having profound, deep conversations about really important things that they've either avoided or just bickered about and never gotten anywhere with.
That's amazing, Flachet. Doesn't that sound amazing? Like the more traditional, come in for 50 minutes and you're both like trying to get your word in. That I feel like what couple therapy I've done in that way, like you leave almost more stressed out.
Well, you do. There's research about that, Jessica. And the research says that couples therapy that's less than 75 minutes long often does damage.
Jeez, thanks a lot. I want to refund.
Thanks, insurance companies.
Catherine, in a nutshell, what are you giving less of a shit about these days that you used to, I don't know, worry more about?
Well, I think there are two things and they're related. The first one is just like saying no. The other thing is I'm forgetting the woman's name. She's so amazing, and she started this thing called like the Ministry of Naps.
Oh, yeah.
This incredible,
I know who you're talking about. She wrote a book about it. Yeah.
yeah, this
Yes.
amazing Black woman. I'm in
Yes.
the middle of her book, and for some reason, probably because I'm on a podcast, I'm just like, her name has fled.
I
But
know who you're talking about. We'll put it in it'll be in the notes. I know.
yeah, so she talks about how, like what I'm over and I don't give a shit about anymore is like the myth of productivity, of, what's really the white supremacist capitalist patriarchy taking over our precious female bodies. That's what it is. And like, I'm so done with that. All the too much work and overload and feeling guilty about unproductive time. I'm just like, I don't give a shit about that anymore.
I love that. And the book you're referencing, and we will find out the author's name, she talks about how rest is a form of resistance.
That's the
Those
name of the
things.
book. Rest is resistant.
There we go.
That's
We'll find out the
amazing.
author. But how great is that to flip that script, especially in these current times where people are trying to
Oh,
to
God.
claw their way back to some machine capitalistic society. No way.
Yeah, and where like people become brands. It's like really okay for my beer or my tires or my car or something, or my guitar to be a brand, but it is not, there's something wrong when people, you are defined, you become your brand. I mean, it's like a prison, right?
Totally.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I love that. I'm going to borrow that one. I love it. I can't wait to read that book.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good.
It's a
Yeah,
good one, especially
really
for
good.
this era of life. I love it. I love it. Yes. Well, this has been delightful. Katherine, you're just welcoming us in this idea of this open space with you to really dive deep sounds so incredible. So I'm just going to encourage anyone who wants to learn more about you, where can they find you? And do you
So
have anything special for our listeners
we
today?
do. Well, you can find me if you go to pioneervalleycouplestherapy.com. It's pioneervalleycouplestherapy.com. And I am one of the two directors. I run intensives, so you can find me on the intensives page or just on the staff page. I'm right there. And you can contact me that way. Also, Friday, April 4th, I am planning an event online, which is free. And it is going to be entitled The Gift of Differentiation, an hour-long free coaching session from me to you, to all of you, whoever wants to join, on how to harness the power of differentiation for women. Again, happening Friday, April 4th. That'll be at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And you can find out more at pioneervalleycouplestherapy.org on our events page.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I want to be there and I want to learn the full song.
Oh,
No, no, no.
come on over. We'd love to have you.
I'll be there too.
Yeah. We'll be your chorus. We'll be your chorus backup singers of
Ah.
No Nos.
Yeah, maybe the song will be recorded by then, right?
Hey, there you go. Well, this has been so helpful, so kind of illuminating. It just has me thinking about, am I bringing up enough things with my partner? Am I talking about the hard stuff and facing it? It's a really wonderful reminder to try to kind of do this on a more consistent basis.
Well, and speaking to that, one of the awesome things that I will be giving people is a handout about how to have effective marriage meetings. So if you come to that little webinar, you're going to get the handout.
Made both of our mouths fall open.
She and I both were like, oh, wait, we have a checklist? We have a checklist? We don't have to wing this by ourselves? So, hey, can we talk?
You got my personal marriage meeting thing that I have put together.
Oh dear. Okay. Well,
My husband and I
think
do
you
it,
hit
and
a
it
nerve.
works really well for us.
I love it.
Amazing.
I
You hit a
love it.
nerve. Jessica and I both want in on that. So I think we'll be at there. So girlfriends, come and join us over there. And the link for Catherine's website and the event are down below in the show notes, whether you're watching on YouTube or over on our Substack.
Mhm.
And Catherine, I want to thank you so much for being here today. I feel like you lifted all of us up. You gave us hope. You gave us some tools and the promise of more tools in the future. And so, on behalf of all the girlfriends, I want to thank you for your wisdom and for sharing that with us and being one of our girlfriends. We are just delighted to share you with the world.
Yes,
So happy to
absolutely.
be here.
Thank you so much, Catherine. You've taught us so much already, and I can't wait for more. It's just wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much.
I love it. Till next time, girlfriends. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.